Hello and welcome to We'll Throw the After Party, your favorite late night live show. I am your host for this week, Sly. Of course, it is a very happy Canada Day to all those who observe. So our fearless leader, Liz, is doing whatever you do to celebrate Canada Day.
She's
but
doing Canada.
doing the Canadian stuff. But of course, I am joined by my lovely co-hosts, Marissa. How's it going?
It's good. I miss my wife, but I'm happy to be here.
You know, we'll have a great time, but Liz will be in our thoughts and prayers throughout this episode. And of course, joining us is the lovely, the wonderful, my favorite, Alexis.
Hi.
That's what you get for name dropping a certain person right before we went live.
I tried not to. I was trying very hard.
I did ask for it, so it is my fault. But keeping in the tradition of one of us dropping life-breaking sentences before we go live, we're gonna hop into all the things we've been enjoying this week. But first, let's say a big hi and thank you to everybody watching. Bucky is here. Had a busy day. We got Mac and JJ in the chat. It's gonna be a great time. Welcome. And to all the replayers, we love you. We see you. You're our favorites. Don't tell the others. But on that note,
I'm calling everyone their favorite today, except me.
You know what, Marissa? You will be my favorite in a bit. But first, what have you been enjoying this week?
Oh God, I have a long list this week. Started with No Hard Feelings, the new Jennifer Lawrence comedy. Greatly enjoyed that. Then I watched all of Bad Sisters on Apple TV. It was a bit of a slow start, but a wild finish. Highly recommend it. Then I started watching The Bear. I have not yet finished The Bear, but I'm watching The Bear. And two other things that I just greatly enjoyed this week were my favorite podcast, Lost Culturistas, had Kelly Clarkson as a guest. And
Wow.
Kelly Clarkson has been like a character in the story of Lost Culturistas for many years. And so listening and actually watching, because they filmed the whole thing, listening to them actually have an in-person real life conversation for a full hour with Kelly Clarkson was pretty fabulous. And then the last thing that I've been enjoying that I'm taking very seriously is making my wardrobe almost exclusively pink in preparation for the Barbie movie. I went back to my blonde highlights. I'm planning to get more blonde highlights before the Barbie movie comes out. I'm building my pink wardrobe. Like, I'm ready to go. We've entered July. It is Barbie season.
We love to see it. It is also another type of season, which is certain sports off seasons. And with that comes, Alexis?
The NHL awards, which I enjoyed this week, and also the draft, which Sly enjoyed. But I only enjoyed the draft. There were three things I enjoyed about the draft. One was Sly's commentary. The second was my brother's commentary. And the third was that there is a wonderful creator on TikTok who I will at after the show, who pushed and works in media for the NHL and pushed to get them to ask the draftees what their favorite Taylor Swift song was and what era they were in. And it popped up on the little boxes. That was very important to me personally. I have all of my opinions about Connor Bedard are because of what his box said about Taylor Swift, and he has to live with that for the rest of his life. So that happened. But I did really enjoy the NHL awards, which to me were just like the Nickelodeon Teen Choice Awards and the Country Music Awards, but they had a baby. I still do not understand where any of these Nashville artists came from. And I am, for better or for worse, a country music girly. I live in the South. It is the default here. The fact that like the only person I really knew was Dirk Bentley, whose concert I went to when I was 12 years old, is a moment.
Mhm.
And that's all I'm going to say on that. And I also started rewatching French, which was fantastic. And I would apologize for making Olivia Dunham my entire personality, but she never stopped being my entire personality. So I guess apologies for my life. The things I've not been enjoying this week, I've been trying to get tickets to the Carolina v. Edmonton game the day before Thanksgiving. And the Carolina Stadium is trying to convince me that the visitor section is full. And I would like to say that there is no fucking way you will ever make me believe that on the day before Thanksgiving, the visitor section of an Edmonton v. Hurricanes game is going to be full. That's impossible. All of Canada is flying here the day before Thanksgiving to watch that game. Makes literally no sense. So if you want to send out positive vibes that I can go to that game and not sit directly behind the goal where I will be distracted for all eternity, I would really appreciate it. The end.
Hell yeah. I will hopefully be enjoying some things later this week, but we'll see. I remembered that I'm teasing it later in the show doc, so I'm gonna cut off that thought so I can tease it later. But yeah, as I previously mentioned, Marissa gets a shout out this week in my what I've been enjoying, because I might have hypothetically been very inebriated and desperately asked the group chat what I should watch because I was too emotionally fragile to continue with White Collar. And so instead, I started Schitt's Creek. And so
I have to just put a little asterisk on this. My favorite thing about when Sly asks for like a TV recommendation is that they never end up watching what we recommend. They come to their own decision independently of anything we have said.
Welcome to my marriage.
Like Bunky gave 3 different recommendations and then Sly was like, oh, should I watch Schitt's Creek? No one ever mentioned Schitt's Creek. Because is Schitt's Creek a show that we would pitch to you successfully? I don't think so.
And that's the thing. We've had a long and storied history that Marissa and I like a single thing, and that is The Princess Diaries too. Specifically the second one. However, I don't know. It just like felt like the vibe for some reason. And I'm very glad that I was inebriated when I started it, because I would not have tolerated the first half of season 1 in any other state.
Yeah.
However, by the time I started to sober up, I was like, might as well finish the season.
I love that.
So, again, it's like not super my show. And I did try to like continue it. I did continue it a little bit today because they're like 20-minute episodes, nice and sweet. And I have to say I did enjoy it less sober. So I think it is going to be specifically a drunken watch for me. But it's fun when I'm, incapacitated.
No, I would honestly recommend if anyone is like, oh, I want to watch Schitt's Creek, but I don't really want to start it. Be under some influence. You will have so much more fun because you really just got to get through a lot of it before you get to my favorite stuff. So,
So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I recommend.
Love. Thirsty Thursday is in its hiatus era, which means JJ and I are doing the thing where we force each other to watch other things that we care passionately about, which means JJ has the wonderful honor of watching, this is gonna get me destroyed on the internet, the best animated Batman property, The Batman 2004. And I am cursed with watching Shadowhunters. So I watched both of those this week. And the last thing I've been enjoying this week is The Storm, which I am currently repping today. Maybe 4-11, but Gabby Williams is back. We got that news this morning. And it's still the best season of sports, no matter what my co-hosts on another show may or may not think. Which leads us to my rant for this week, which is why it's the best season in sports. Marissa, what are you ranting about this week?
Oh, I'm just going to tell you a list of things that pissed me off. I think that's when my rant is delivered best, is when I am just full rage.
That is so valid. Alexis?
I have to be real honest. I got myself into a lot of trouble with this rant. I made a critical error. What happened was, I am in the habit of putting my title of the rant in the show doc and keeping all my notes to myself. Usually context doesn't matter because I am there to guide my co-hosts through what I'm going to be talking about. But last week I put in the show doc, I'm going to look for the exact word here. Last week, I wasn't on the show, but I had put my rant in the show doc. And so my co-hosts read celebrity product campaigns, launches products, and what they should have done instead. And they assumed based on that I was going to talk about celebrity product campaigns, launches products, and what they should have done instead. When in fact, that was just code for, I really think Leon Dreisaitl should leave his brand with Puma and work with a dog food company. So I will be talking about that.
Amazing.
Iconic. I love that for us. We were so excited for this rant. And honestly, I think it got a little better.
I was so excited, but also I was like, that's a really interesting angle for Alexis. Like, that feels like a Liz vibe. This is 100% Alexis, straight down the middle. Amazing.
All right. Are we ready? Shall we rant? We shall. All right. First off, I'm starting off with a disclaimer. This is not about baseball. Fuck baseball. I am anti-America's game. I'm not talking about the season of baseball. I'm also going to give an honorable mention to the NHL child auction. Drafts are boring, but, you know, I'm very excited to see the babies tomorrow. So that'll be fun. What I'm actually going to be talking about is off-season drama. First
of all, I was finishing Bad Sisters. It was already far too late at night. It was past 1 a.m. And this is a show about a murder mystery. And I got 40 minutes into the finale. I had 20 minutes left of this entire show, and my Wi-Fi cut out. And I needed to know how that show ended immediately. And I couldn't. I had to get on my hotspot and use my cellular on my iPad. It was horrible.
So Leon Dreisaitl has this like brand partnership with Puma. And on its face, I should like this a lot because it includes two things that I like a lot, Leon Dreisaitl and Puma. And I grew up in a Puma household, right? I grew up with people that were serious about golf at a time that Ricky Fowler, ironically a Florida Panthers fan, was also serious about golf, right? When he was like invested in his own career. And he had partnered with Puma. But the thing is, when you golf, you can actually wear the clothes.
All right. Okay. I haven't super been following the men BA the past couple of years. I will own up to that. And that's because the season is kind of whatever. However, I always keep up with the off season because it's dramatic as fuck. These are grown-ass men with way too much money and free time who just want to figure out how to play with their friends and talk shit on the internet. And I'm having a blast, even if my notifications keep going off every 5 seconds.
Okay, I gotta hurry up because that took 30 seconds and I have like 10 more bullet points. Next up is The Bear. I put off watching The Bear for a very long time because I live in Chicago. I've lived in Chicago for 6 years. And I have a lot of feelings about shows set in Chicago and how they accurately or inaccurately represent Chicago. So I've struggled through The Bear. I've really enjoyed the show. I've really not enjoyed some of the choices. Then Spotify crashed when I tried to listen to Olivia Rodrigo's Vampire for the first time, and it was off for like 30 freaking minutes.
You can wear the clothes of the company that you are sponsoring. There are not Puma skates out here on this ice. That's not happening. So the only time I see this man in this clothes, it's not while he's playing hockey. It's not while he's in Spain. It's when he shares the product code on his Instagram like he's a TikTok influencer. But what I do see is pictures of this man with his dog Bowie all the time. So I think he should go like the Chris Evans route. And
all right, so like I don't know who decided to put NBA and NHL free agency within 24 hours of each other, but I've never had to follow both before, and I am overwhelmed. However, if you want live sports and you're sleeping on the W, you are missing out on some of the best basketball ever. I am acknowledging here, I do have a Seattle bias. However, there were two very freaking iconic games that happened recently that you need to watch.
Okay, next up we have the start of the Barbie press tour with their stops in Sydney and Toronto, and I'm pissed that Liz was not at the Canada party in Toronto because she should have been, and that's for another day. Then I was really pissed off about the weather in Chicago because there was rain and then there wasn't rain, but there was smoke and air pollution from the Canadian wildfires. Happy Canada Day, but could you stop having wildfires? Climate change is a serious problem. I can't breathe in my own city.
Okay, and so I think he should go the Chris Evans route and should partner with a dog food brand company instead, because quite frankly, I care about Bowie more. And so I think there are a couple things that we should include in this. One, I think this dog food should be made of real ingredients and lean protein that keep your dog happy and active. But instead of the dog in the commercial chasing after a dumb Frisbee because that's stupid, I think it should just be that really cute video of Bowie like running through the hallways of the Oilers front office.
So first off, you have Seattle at Dallas on the 17th. If you are a basketball fan, you need to watch this game. It is arguably the best basketball game of the year, period. It was commentated by Cheryl Swoops, icon. It was dynamic, technical. It was Jewel and Enrique balling the fuck out. If you are not necessarily a basketball fan, watch Seattle versus Minnesota on the 29th. Both teams lost their franchise player last year. They retired, so they're young and fun, they're entertaining, they're dramatic. We love an overtime game.
Okay, then Rogers the Musical premiered yesterday, and I'm pissed about the fact that I wasn't there. That's not fair. Also, I should have been invited, like, as an influencer. We all know I am the premier voice on Rogers the Musical. Also, I'm pissed about the wigs. That's for another day. And then I was pissed that I couldn't have mac and cheese because I didn't give myself enough time to make it before this. And the final thing that pissed me off this week is the Supreme Court. So have tried.
Second, I think it should look like a treat, like it should look and taste and feel like a dog treat, even though it has the nutritional value of actual meals, so that your dog looks forward to this treat, this food, almost as much as he looks forward to you coming home from your away matches in America that Alexis is hopefully going to get tickets to see. I also think we should name all of these dog food flavors after culturally appropriated German foods, because I am a vapid bitch, and that would be fun for me personally.
I'm taking my extra list time because I have a final thought about this game. The Seattle versus Minnesota game is a great example of the quality and talent of the league, of the WNBA in general, because it's two teams in the bottom half of the standings, and it is an excellent game. It is fun, it's entertaining, it's dramatic. It's just like such a good introduction if you don't necessarily know or care about all the technical aspects of the game. It's a great starting point. Marissa, any
I'm
list
also
time?
going to take my list time.
Okay.
Yes. I would just like to add an addendum to what I previously said. Warner Brothers Canada, Liz is my favorite Canadian content creator. She's my favorite pop culture commentator, and you should be working with her. And then also, if you are finding it difficult to think about celebrating the 4th of July this year, I would recommend you adopt my family's practice, which is calling it the Pride of July, and just extending Pride Month through the 4th of July.
Iconic. Alexis, do you have any list time?
I have literally nothing else to say.
Perfect.
You nailed it.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. Well, that was a blast. And with that, we're gonna get into, our topic of the show, which may or may not be as much fun as we had during those rants. Of course, we're talking this week about Secret Invasion episode 2, and I did the list thing where I forgot that the next section also requires the timer, so I'm just gonna refine this. There we go. Back to this layout. Great. Love that for us. I'm doing so great today, guys.
You are.
Thank you.
Doing a really good job.
I'm so proud.
I'm having a blast. I'm so happy to be here with the two of you today. If you are new here, we are going to attempt, and that's a key word, attempt to recap the entirety of Secret Invasion episode 2 in 30-second increments. However, it will probably just devolve into one person rattling off all the things they can remember, and we're just going to accept that and go with it. I will start off this week because I actually take notes. Unlike Liz. I love you so much, Liz.
It is true, though. Liz never taken a note in her life. Not a thing that happens.
Are we ready?
Liz and I like to write notes about our vibes. They're not anything about facts or information that will be relevant to us on Saturday.
And the best part about it is you guys have the vibes. I have the just pure exactly what happened.
It's just
and then
beats.
Alexis has every single thought that came into her brain. And so between the four of us, we have a comprehensive guide to the vibes and the experience of the episode. And it's great. On that note, I'm just going to kick it off. All right, we start with a Captain Marvel recap for all the people who haven't seen Captain Marvel, apparently. And then we jump 2 years after Captain Marvel in London with Fury recruiting the Skrulls to protect Earth in the promise of getting them a home. And then we go back to the square that exploded at the end of the last episode. And then we're on the train. And we get a monologue about the experience of Blackness in America, I guess. I don't know. And then we find out Talos called the Skrulls to Earth when Fury left or was snapped. Nobody else is interrupting me.
Well, I'll let you finish your thought. That's great.
Okay.
And then we go to London and we meet a casket with Maria Hill's body inside of it. And we meet Maria Hill's mom because guess what? She's had a mom this whole time, but we wouldn't have known it until she died. Her mom was very angry. And then we meet a council of Skrulls, presumably, but then also they're part of the NATO or the UN or something. And then Rhodey shows up, and then there is.
Is that when we have another meeting with the whole UN? And Rhodey is very sassy, and they are all angry, mostly France. But I think it's okay to be pissed at France because she used the wrong name for Maria Hill. And then there is a conversation between Fury and Rhodey that was clearly written by two white dudes. Yep. And then I'm not sure what happens after that.
And then we see Love of My Life, Sonya Bestie doing her thing. We're at the computer with Gaia. I forgot how to say it now. Gaia.
Nailed it.
Cool, great. We find out that Talos was a former Skrull general, which I'm sure will be important later. I'm just gonna keep going. Then we're in the what's it called? Butcher shop. And that's fun. R.I.P. fingers, R.I.P. people. And then we get Fury unnecessarily macking on some lady for way too long, and it was super uncomfortable. And that was
very long.
episode 2.
Yeah.
All right, great times. Team effort.
That was actually really accurate. We did really good.
So proud of us. With that, let's head to our toasts of the week. And I don't have 5 beverages on my desk, so I guess I'm toasting with my emotional support water bottle. Marissa, how old is your coffee?
What? How old is my coffee? This is from yesterday.
I am so confused by this. I will get like an extra large sweet tea and I will have the thing consumed by the time I pull out of the parking lot. And Marissa somehow keeps coffee for like a year. Like how do you do it?
I don't know. I guess I just like I drink it very slowly, but also I like talk myself into it because I use oat milk, not dairy milk. And so I'm like, it can never go bad. Just put it in the fridge and have more of it tomorrow.
I mean, accurate.
I don't know.
I just also, well, okay. I am one of two people. Either it's chugged immediately or I get the beverage, set it somewhere, and then forget it exists for approximately 3 to 5 business years.
Yeah.
So I relate to both experiences.
Yeah.
Alexis, what are you toasting with?
I'm just toasting with water tonight.
I thought that was a bottle of vodka.
It kind of looks like it. It's a
My
very
bottles
fancy
of
bottle.
vodka are much nicer than this. Thank you very much.
Valid. All right. I already mentioned my toast in our recap. I'm toasting to Sonia Bestie. I love her so much. She can do no wrong. I support women's wrongs.
Complete agree.
I just adore her.
Complete agree. I am toasting to Fury's little hat.
As you should.
His little spy man fedora just tickled me.
We love a silly little hat.
Do we know where it came from? I feel like it just arrived in this episode.
It just appeared.
Okay.
Walked off a spaceship with nothing on his back, and suddenly he has like a wool fedora.
Love that for him.
He pulled it out of his bag of holding. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm toasting to Fury's house because it is a mid-century modern gay nightmare, and that's my favorite kind.
It really
I
is.
would like the record to state that I only feel that it's a nightmare about the fucking style of chairs that you can't comfortably sit in like a gay person.
Listen, when I saw his house, I thought, oh, this checks out. Well, maybe I don't really know that it checks out. I just think this feels like the house that Samuel L. Jackson would have.
My exact thought.
No, I don't really know if it's the house Nick Fury would have, but it is the house Samuel L. Jackson would have.
It also looks.
I'd love to see it. This is a great toast. I am seconding this toast.
Yes.
I did put in my notes. Hold on, let me find it. Why make Gravik so hot if not supposed to root for him, huh?
You did, and it took me aback. Like I was like, but yes, we'll toast to that. I was going to say that Fury's house looks eerily similar to Daveed Diggs's house, and that also threw me for a minute. Like they are very similarly like styled. Yeah, so I thought that was I was like, oh.
I did watch that Architectural Digest, but it was years ago. I don't remember.
I'm an Architectural Digest girly. Sly has to put up with this.
You want to talk about the black and white
Alexis
color scheme?
Have you seen the Barbie Dream House Architectural Digest video?
I have it tagged. It is going to be my tomorrow when I like reset for the week. It's going to be my. Right now, I have been stuck on Architectural Digest of somebody's hideous marble waterfall island that seats 18 people for a house of 2 and a dog.
Because black and white is a valid color palette choice.
It's not it. It's not invalid.
Okay, we're getting way too in the weeds.
It's just. Yeah, we need to move on before I start talking about the couch. So.
All right, let's talk about other things we hate. This is our WTF moment of the week segment. Marissa, what made you say what the fuck?
Olivia Colman pruning fingers.
I did not read the show doc until immediately before you started saying that sentence.
Listen, I think I got very happy in my like this is Disney. It's on Disney Plus. Disney runs Marvel. I understand everything that's going to happen. There will be no violence that is not, comfortable to me. When we get to body parts, that's where I check right out. But you know what? It was a genius technique.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
I don't know what the technique looked like because I was warned and I skipped it.
Well, it was just a brilliant way to be like, oh, really? You think you're just some American dude? I know you're not, idiot.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing.
Yeah. All right, Alexis, please take this time to tell us all of the things wrong with Russia in the past 2 episodes. I'm seated.
I have so many issues with Russia in this show. And I had to sit down before I watched the second one and be like, Alexis, what is the problem? Because media has never portrayed Russia accurately, not in the States, right? Like our scale for Russian accuracy is like -5 to 0, where 0 is inaccurate and -5 is harmfully inaccurate, right? Like we rarely get to like 1, 2, or 3. So it's not that I usually look for accurate Russian representation. But I think typically when we see Russia represented, it is color toned. So it is like this kind of like a gray and like blue, and it's always cold. People are always in coats. So at least my mind knows, oh, this is what America thinks Russia is. We are now in Russia. This to me looked as much like Russia as it did Steve Rogers' apartment in Brooklyn. It looked the same to me. So my mind was like, where the hell are we? Like, this is not in Russia. But my main problem is that Marvel tries to tell me that I have to watch all of these projects because they are all interconnected. And that the timelines are very important, right? The timeline was important in Loki. It was important in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm supposed to know when these projects are happening within the Marvel universe. I'm supposed to keep all of that in my head because if I miss one, I may miss an integral part of the Marvel universe. So why then does this Russia not look anything like the Russia that we visited in the Black Widow movie? It does not. This is not the same Russia. It does not exist in the same country. So don't force me to watch things I don't want to watch because it's important. And then show me a completely different place and say, no, this is the same Russia. The only thing Russian about this Russia was the giant ass matryoshkas. That was it. Mm-hmm. And it looked nothing like any of the other Russias. I don't understand. We couldn't use the same stock footage? Like, why did we reinvent the wheel for this Russia? Anyway, that's my what the fuck moment.
That was incredible. I'm so glad you did that for me personally. I thoroughly enjoyed it. My WTF moment this week is a combination because if I saw either of these occur in the episode independently of each other, I would be like, okay, you just like don't have the right people in the room and you don't know what you're talking about. But the fact that they happened both within the same episode felt intentional and it gave me bad vibes. And that was the reptilian comment and the secret council of shapeshifting aliens together. That was just yucky and it made me uncomfortable. And it was, I don't want to say intentional, but it's hard to read that as anything other than being intentionally anti-Semitic. What are we doing? But you know, Marvel, and we ask them to be better for 20 years and then they'll give us like one lip service thing and be like progress. And so I don't know why I keep expecting them to be better. So that was my WTF moment this week. We'll see where it goes. And maybe we can bring Bucky on sometime to be like, here's how I would write this way better. And then we can get Bucky dropped because Bucky would be much better writer than any of these Marvel writers. So hire Bunky. I didn't plan on pitching Bunky and drop this episode. It just happened. On the topic of Alexis telling us all the things that we need to know about everything ever, we're going to bring back my favorite segment, which is the Alexis Comic Corner. So, Alexis, tell us all the comic book references we missed in this episode.
I knew this was coming, and there was still a moment of fear where I thought this was going to be Liz's plumbing corner, and I was like, I know jack all about plumbing. Please don't make me do this. I know nothing. Okay, yes, this is my comic corner that I knew was coming because I pitched it before the show. I'm responsible for this. So I think there are two moments in this episode that we need to talk about comics-wise. The first is the Super Skrulls, which is an interesting thing in the comics because there is the Super Skrull singular, Kellert, KL-RT, who is like the primary Super Skrull that leads the other Super Skrulls. He first appeared in Fantastic Four, I want to say 17 or 18, the Jack Kirby's run, and he was Super Skrull. But then later on, as Marvel does in these stories kind of develop through different comics, we get like an army of Super Skrulls who are all of these other Skrulls that have gone through this experimentation to become Super Skrulls. Also, in line with what Marvel generally gives us, there is no consistency into how this works at all. So sometimes Super Skrulls can, like I think, Sly, you mentioned off air in the Marvel Snap game, they can kind of copy everybody else's abilities. But sometimes the Super Skrulls are just like bigger Skrulls. Like sometimes it's just like Mighty Morphin Power Ranger style, and they just like become the giant Zord, and that is the Super Skrull. So it kind of depends on which comic that you're reading as to how they work. They do become pretty integral into the Young Avengers line. There is a series of those comics where there's Super Skrulls, like the army is their main, like are their main villains. And we get names that we're more familiar with, like the God Killer, those types of characters. But the interesting thing, I think, in terms of this show is that there is a scientist. And now in the show, they said, I think Drogue, it was Drogge, maybe. But in the comics, there is a scientist, a Skrull scientist, Dro-GE. And this is our second comics reference. But his job in the comics, he's kind of this devious, unethical scientist, because when has Marvel heard of an ethical researcher? And he experiments with all of these different types of genetic material to create the Super Skrull, these Skrulls that are bigger and better than all Skrulls. Now, problematically in the comics, this is originally intended as like a genocidal situation, right? Like he will create the Super Skrulls, and the Skrulls that agree to be Super Skrulls will be accepted, and the Skrulls that do not fit his criteria of what he thinks is a good candidate for Super Skrulls will be removed from the comics.
Giving Cyberman.
Yeah, because why would we profit off the backs of Jewish writers and creators and do anything genuine to their heritage or, you know, anything historically sensitive? So that's what happens with him. So
I would like to I found in my notes. So the two names we got in this episode was Emperor Droge, Drogge, and he apparently has a colony of Skrulls somewhere. And then we got Dr. Rosa Dalton, who is the doctor lady scientist bestie. And I don't know her husband's last name because men don't have rights.
Okay, awesome. So I don't know a Dr. Dalton in the comics, but I think what I'm thinking that the assumption is that maybe the Emperor is involved in her research somehow. and that the Emperor is kind of supposed to be this reference to this evil comic-y doctor who wants to, and I quote, eliminate humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's what I do. I had a completely off-topic thought while you were talking, and all of that was incredible. Thank you for sharing. But I just realized how many of the Skrull names in the Skrull language use an okina, which is the like apostrophe, and that's the like it's a letter in the like written Hawaiian alphabet or whatever. And that is the second reference to Hawaii we have seen with the Skrulls. And now I just have more questions.
it is also interesting because in a earlier property that was arguably anti-Semitic in its representation of alien species, the naming convention is the same. And that would be Star Trek, the original series. Yeah. We've got some very Romulan names happening, and we're just brushing right past it. As when has Marvel done anything original? Somebody start talking.
Yeah, let's get on to all the other things Marvel did wrong and jump into our favorite corner, our feminist rant of the week.
Ooh. Let's get into it. I mentioned it in our recap, but Maria Hill only gets a mom after she dies. Can we stop doing this to women in the MCU? Why do they only get interesting after they're dead? Why is Natasha Romanoff only an interesting three-dimensional character after she falls off a cliff and splats to the ground? Her mother looks just like her. That was really weird for me. But it was wonderful. She gave a great performance. It was nice to see Maria Hill humanized for once. Apparently, she talked to her mom a lot about her work with Nick Fury. Her and Nick Fury had a pre-established relationship. I would have loved to know any of these facts at any other moment other than standing next to her literal casket. But that's just me. Alexis, please jump in whenever necessary.
I don't know that it's necessary. However, in my personal life, one of my top 5 pet peeves is when people refer to me as Miss, M-I-S-S, because I am not a virginal daughter with a dowry in a Jane Austen novel. I am of marrying age. I have just made the choice not to marry. I am not a child.
That's not true.
Since I am not a child, you do not refer to me as M-I-S-S. You refer to me as M-S, period. I had this issue in more than one of the jobs that I am working. This has been like a highly debated thing. It is M-S. So when Miss Dr. France lady, whatever, referred to her as a Miss, and it came up in my subtitles as M-I-S-S Maria Hill. I was like, I will burn France to the ground. Do you dare me? Like, put some respect on this woman's name. The end.
Yeah, I also feel like don't honorifics like carry over even after you leave the service or whatever? Like, shouldn't agent at least carry over?
Special agent?
Like,
well, and like SHIELD is so, like, the hierarchy is so based in the military. You would think that there would be like a commander or like a second lieutenant or like a something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
she is at least a special agent. And I'm pretty sure they referenced her having military experience. So she would also have a military rank. But no, Miss. Not even like a Ms. Like, full on Miss. The disrespect.
Feminist rant in the positive.
Oh.
Olivia Colman is playing. That's it.
As she should.
Yeah.
Who was saying? I missed that. Who?
Olivia Colman.
Oh, yes.
All right. Next up, we have the lovely Plumbing Corner, except for we don't actually have Plumbing Corner this week, and instead Marissa has a surprise replacement that I have no idea what it is. So I had no idea how to transition this. So here you go.
Great, this is perfect. Yeah, I have a new pitch. I don't think it can replace Plumbing Corner, but I do think it might need to become a weekly segment with the way that this show is going. I think we might need to introduce a refrigerator corner. Because as we know, Maria Hill was fridged in episode 1, and in episode 2, we had several scenes, including combat, happening inside a walk-in refrigerator. So I think we need to introduce a refrigerator corner because, like, it's a recurring theme.
Mhm.
Where's the plumbing? I don't know. Where are the refrigerators? I could tell you immediately. That's my pitch. And that's why my background is walk-in.
I was about to say the amount of times that Marvel refrigerates characters, it would have to be a walk-in. Like this is all those bodies aren't fitting in my fridge.
Yeah. No. Proposal accepted. I put it in the thing. From now on, we will
Great.
have the refrigerator corner. Love that for us.
Motion
I have
carries
some
through.
serious questions about the electrical infrastructure of the Skrulls' hiding headquarters in allegedly Russia. Because the internet seems to be dial-up from 1980, but we also seem to have enough electricity to make a new Winter Soldier. And I'm confused as to how, like, is that because we are giving up the electricity needing to power the computers and Wi-Fi? Or is that just because they were like, no, like we don't have modern technology on Skrullos, which I still can't say with a straight face. We don't have modern technology on Skrullers. So like, we don't need it, or like modern technology will give you information. And so you will leave the Skrull colony. Like, is it like a culty choice, or is it like a electricity siphoning choice?
I just have a question why everything looks like they're getting database information via command line. Like, that is, like, not the most easy way to organize all of your data. And I just have serious questions about why we have a big box computer.
Yeah.
And why that is what we think is acceptable to be the technology in this country that we are supposedly coding as Russia.
Yeah.
Especially because they have other technology. So it's like, it is possible. But you chose like what literally looks like, I think I'm the only one that played Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego in like 1997.
That's not true.
But it literally was like a black screen with like green detailing was how you got your top secret information. And that's what this feels like. And I'm like, but just next door, you have this like state-of-the-art science lab. So
And they have like cellular phones.
Oh yeah, that's like, a good point. They
full
do
touchscreen phones.
They do have the modern phone. I don't.
I feel like it's supposed to be like a reminder that they're in like an abandoned area and it's like found technology, but there's really no reason why they can't bring in a MacBook. Like they leave all the time.
Technology? Like that's my question. I don't know that I've seen like I think it would be easier for me to find somebody's discarded iPad than it would for me to bring up a desktop from like 1995.
But I think that's the point. They're trying to signal that computer has been there since the
so maybe this
facility
has been here forever. Okay.
Yeah,
that would make more sense.
But I mean, wasn't it implied that like there was like the small group in 97, and then they were implied that the 1 million came over post snap.
Yeah. That's what I got from it. It was a
when did Skrullos be founded? Who knows? Great. Let's talk about something that other people also might not know anything about. And that is what the implications of naming their fictional president Ritson, which rhymes with a U.S. president that may or may not be flagging certain historical contexts that anybody who experienced the U.S. public education system, or even the private education system, all of the education here, not great, might not know anything about. But we do have two history bitches here. And so I just wanted to give y'all the space to rant your little hearts out about whatever you think will be relevant about Presidents Reagan and Nixon to this fictional president here.
I really appreciate being labeled as a history bitch. The only history, like if it didn't happen on Timeless, I don't know it as a historical event. I truly don't. So like this is gonna have to go to Marissa.
No, here's the thing: is this is not my preferred area of history.
What, you don't prefer Nixon and Reagan as areas of history?
Crack at it. I can tell you the implications. I can't give you the full history. But
that's all we need.
Yeah. Immediately in the first episode, when you have that follow shot of the president and Rhodey having that conversation about Fury and Hill, you pass by these two portraits on the staircase, and it's literally Reagan and Nixon. And I was like, oh, immediately terrible vibes. Like, I understand what is going on here, and I don't like it. So the implications that we're getting are like surveillance. I wanted to say big government, but that's not necessarily accurate. It's more big brother government.
It's giving
deals behind the corner. Yes, it's giving Cold War.
It's giving ignoring a pandemic because it only impacts a couple groups of people we don't care about.
Yeah, it's giving trickle down. It's giving the people at the top are making the decisions for everyone else, and the people at the top are only making the decisions that benefit the people at the top. It's giving
and staying at the top,
and yes, and climbing even higher, arguably. It's giving I'm not looking out for my fellow citizen, I'm looking out for myself. It's giving I don't have to follow the rules because I'm too cool for that. Rules don't apply to me. I can have shady deals on this tape recorder, on this phone I have in my office whenever I want. And no one's ever going to find out, even though I keep the tapes in a special facility down the street. Like, for more on that, look into the Watergate tapes.
I was about to say, it's also giving we don't trust women. There was a famous woman during the Watergate that was like, hey, this is a thing. And they were like, no, you're a woman. You're crazy. You have no idea.
Yeah. It's also giving don't trust the media. Don't giving
something, like, say something.
Yeah, it's giving we have influence over all interested parties. Like, it's giving bad vibes.
Yeah. It's also giving, I don't know, something uncomfortable about the choice of putting out this particular story at this particular time, depicting the starting of a global conflict between Russia and America at a really interesting time. IRL.
In fact, it shocked me a little bit. And I thought it surprised me because I had listened to approximately 700 hours of commentary about how you get a player that plays hockey in Russia into the United States during this global conflict. So I thought, oh, that's why it has stood out to me. And then the more I watched it, I was like, no, Marvel, I just really don't know that this is a good idea right now. And in fact, I know of other shows that were canceled or postponed because this plot was included right now. But Marvel just said, full steam ahead, we got this. And they've never gotten anything ever. So I think that's a really bold choice.
Yeah, it certainly is a bold choice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
There's a part of me that, like, we haven't seen a lot of the president yet. the implications, the vibes are not good. But there is a part of me that is like, are they introducing this character to reinforce and differentiate the fact that this is not our world? This is not
Maybe.
political climate. Like, I think there is an aspect of that. I don't think it's successful enough to justify the choices that they are making in relation to the current political climate in the world we actually live in. But I think that might be a piece of it.
That's so valid. That's a great thought. Look at you having big brain thoughts. So
It's the
proud.
only one I've had today.
Couldn't be me. Hey, at least you got one. We love to see it. Oh, man. Speaking of big brain thoughts, I realize I have been really driving this show very quickly with no regards to what time it was. And I really just barreled through a like 2.5 hour conversation in like an hour. And so like now I'm gonna take a step back and take a breather and say, hey besties, what else about this episode of Synchronization do you want to talk about?
Well, I don't think that's on you. I think we had like 2 conversation themes this week, and that's not very helpful for your job. But I do want to talk a little bit about the reveal. Do we want to talk about the reveal at the end like later? Or do we want to have that conversation now?
Let's have it now.
So
we can talk about how very violently I was reminded of my aceness by how long I had to watch Fury make out with a random woman on screen.
Listen, let's get into it.
What, Marissa?
I had to look away. It was long.
Well, Sly kept saying it was long, and I was like, that didn't feel long to me. And then I realized it was because like I was reading fanfic the entire time. Like I saw him like walk up to her, and I was like, okay, like I know what's happening here. Like, so anyway, what has been interesting to me about this show? Well, that's not a way to start that sentence. When I thought about what Secret Invasion was going to be, one of the things that I wanted, in the comics, I think it's very cool that at any given time you could find out a hero is a Skrull. Mm-hmm. You don't know if they're a Skrull or not. Generally, I wanted that to be portrayed on screen in a way that I had the clues to get there. Mm-hmm. And I started rewatching Fringe this week, which timing-wise was probably a terrible decision because Fringe is well written. But in the first 2 seasons of that show, they do a really good job of like dropping hints so that their reveals are these big dramatic reveals, but they're not surprises. Like you get the impact of the reveal, but you can say, oh, I saw all of this stuff like leading up to in retrospect, when I go back and rewatch it.
The drama, not the shock factor.
Yes, exactly. Like I saw these breadcrumbs. And so like there's an episode I was watching this week where like Olivia, our FBI agent, is talking to this nonverbal child, and she's got these M&Ms, and she's like, you see in the wide shot that she's picked out all the yellow ones. And kind of at the end, she offhandedly says, like, I don't know, there was something about them that always made me think of medicine. The conversation moves on. 8 episodes later, you'll find out that she didn't know that she was involved in a military medical experiment as a kid, right? But that has still impacted her. And you see that through the show. So I wanted those types of Skrull reveals. I was a little startled when the entire council was just Skrulls. And I was like, how long have you been Skrulls? That has were you Skrulls in Winter Soldier? Because that has some implications. Or were you just Skrulls like post Snap? Like, when have you been Skrulls? And if you're just revealing Skrulls to me all the time, and then a main character like Rhodey turns out to be a Skrull, I'm going to feel betrayed because you were not like playing with story or like dropping breadcrumbs. You're just kind of like arbitrarily deciding that people were Skrulls. But because of that, I think the kind of reveal, not reveal at the end was really interesting because I saw that Fury's wife was a Skrull first, and then she was not a Skrull. And when Fury walked in the house and she said, aren't you forgetting something? My instinct was Fury is a Skrull, and he has come in this house looking like Fury, and that is what he's forgotten. But no, he forgot the wedding ring. So now I'm like, oh my goodness, does Fury know? Like, is Fury like in an interspecies, interracial relationship, which would be interesting commentary, or is Fury completely unaware?
I think
I
that
think
was
he
the
knows.
intention.
You think he knows?
Was to
Yeah,
have
we
that
meet her
conversation.
early. She's the one that introduces Gravik in 97.
So you think he's absolutely aware?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
They had a vibe when she even introduced Gravik. Like, yeah. I was like, oh, this new Lady Skrull. Hello.
I know.
I actually think like that last scene, barring how excessively long the makeout was like one of the best moments of this episode because it hits on all of those beats. We see the Skrull doing, a like mundane task, right? We see the human form. We get that moment of, oh, is Furious Skrull? Is he not? The marriage reveal. And then you're left with that question, like, wait, is that the same person I saw earlier? Does he recognize that this the same person earlier? And I think it was intentionally done to start that conversation. And I think we're just very good at being like, Marvel, I've watched all of the million projects you've put out because you told me I had to. I'm picking up on how you're setting up the story.
Well, and I think it's an interesting, we talked in an earlier episode, like in our pre-invasion episode, about like kind of the comics plot line where like he discovers that there's this Skrull invasion because this woman he's in love with is a Skrull and he's unaware, right? So I think if they play on that in kind of the opposite way, where like he has been aware the whole time, like this is like just a thing, that would be one of their bigger successes in kind of flipping comic storyline, which when they started in Captain Marvel and they reframed the Skrulls as refugees, I think was one of their greatest successes. So I've been a little upset that they kind of flipped that storyline back to the more traditional. Sorry, my cat she has hunted a lobster and she is now bringing it to us as a gift. But anyway.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be interesting to see how it plays out. You did mention the council, and I think we should attempt to talk about it. Here's the thing with the council. I am bad at recognizing faces, ever. And I never know who anybody is, ever. So every time I'm presented with the person, I'm assuming this is the first time I've met them, unless you tell me otherwise. So I was trying to follow this council meeting, and I was struggling my ass off. Here's what I have so far, and please correct me, because I didn't know what was going on. All right. At the council meeting, we have the British Prime Minister lady. Do we know her? Before this project?
No. Listen, I will help avail you of your confusion. We have never met these people before, except for those quick shots of them on TV before. Quick news bit of like the Fox News guy, the Prime Minister, the
So
UN
then
guy.
we have it's NATO. The NATO Secretary General.
Yes.
Sergio.
Yes.
And that's all one person. His
Yes.
name's Sergio, and he's the NATO Secretary General. And that's the one dude.
Yes.
And then the other dude is the Fox News man.
Yeah.
The anchor, which, Alexis, I think
Fox
you had in
News,
your
but
notes.
it is very heavily flagged to be Fox News, which is...
I thought it said Fox News.
No, it said FXN.
FXN.
No, what I had in my notes was
about the broadcaster thing.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him. I just thought he was bad at acting like a broadcaster.
Yeah, which further
he's not a broadcaster, so that would make sense.
Establishes that only people who are actually been news broadcasters should be hired to play news broadcasters in your media.
One of the 5 times I will agree with Dean Devlin on something, and it is that. It was true in 911. It is true here.
Valid. And then there's the other man.
Man.
Is that the guy that I thought was supposed to be French, but kind of is playing it like?
Is it are you talking about the Italian guy? I don't think the Italian guy
I thought the Italian guy was Sergio, the NATO general.
No,
and then there was another man who I have no idea who he is.
Hold on.
And then the other person I had no idea who they were was Shirley, and that was Bessie who walked out of the meeting and didn't. And we stan her. I don't know anything about her except for that her name is Shirley.
I spent this whole episode and an hour and 10 minutes of this episode of We'll Throw the After Party thinking that this was the council that shows up in all the Marvel films. Like the Council of Special People Fury always has to talk to.
Oh, the council, like
spent this whole
World
time.
Council,
So the fact that they were all Skrulls had big implications for me because I was like, well, no wonder you haven't. Like, no wonder this has been an issue ongoing. You haven't wanted S.H.I.E.L.D. to do things.
No.
You were Skrulls.
These are all new
information
it's
for me.
A whole new lineup. It's all brand new.
That's what you get when you never look at people's faces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
well,
great. Love that for us.
That's what you also get when the MCU recreates the government in every movie.
That's
in different ways every single
consistency.
Yeah. Okay, great. So that was the
that guy. Yeah. Okay, great. I found great. Yes, I'm on board. Yes.
Okay. So that means we have 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 people and then Gravik Bestie on this council. Okay. Great. Can't wait to learn more about them. Said so sincerely.
Yep.
Okay. What do we think the implications are about the harvest locations being empty? These are the places where we're assuming they're getting the DNA samples from people like the Jotun Frustrant and Groot and whatever the obsidian thing was.
Call Obsidian. And
Extremis also mentioned.
And the Extremis,
go back to Iron Man 3.
So what do you think was supposed to be in
Gwyneth Paltrow and her bra that should have been a top the whole time is going to come back? Why is she in a sports bra for half the movie?
You're so real for that, though.
It sits me off. That's truly like my only memory from watching that movie. Is it should have been a tank top.
Well, I'm glad that's your only gripe because anyway.
This is not my only gripe. It's my only.
I love Marvel. I want to be clear. I'm a Marvel Comics reader. I am an MCU enjoyer. They're just. We've got bad blood today. What was I going to say? Oh, I am also wondering if there's a faction. If there is a fraction within this current Skrull faction, and that maybe some Skrulls are pre-harvesting, and that is why the harvest sites are empty. I was kind of getting a vibe that maybe everyone is not on the same page. Maybe there is some like secret hierarchical underhanding happening.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes sense.
But Marissa's looking at me like, that is not a thought I had at all. Instead, it's clearly this.
Oh, no. I completely agree with you. I mean, I just think there is no way that like a 32-year-old man can lead a revolution of 1 million people successfully without having some fraction. I guessed on how old he is. That seems roughly accurate. I don't know how old when he came to America, but
it's like at least early teens. Like he was small in 97.
He was like 12. Then he's 12 years older than me, so 40, whatever.
There's no way they're playing him as 40. That's
no, he's not. But
and the only number I associate with 32 is 19 these days. So
So I'm just gonna blow right past that. We have previously established that Talos bestie is like 135, but he's like 40 Earth years. So like, who fucking
are we
knows?
about to do some math?
No, we are
Okay,
not.
well, we need to start with how old Kingsley Ben-Adir is. Kingsley Ben-Adir is 37. Great.
First
Okay.
Google result says he's 85. Okay, so hang on.
No graphic.
Oh, I was like, what are you Googling?
Kingsley Ben-Adir is 37 and 85 at the exact same time.
Same time.
Okay,
Great.
well,
Love that for us.
the point is,
It's 3.37. Hang on.
anyone under the age of 40 trying to lead a revolution, I don't think is going to be entirely successful in like their communications even. So like I don't think messaging is really reaching everyone. So I think fractions is very likely. And I mean the cell is sort of like, you can come live in this commune and you don't have to be a warrior and take on a human identity. You can just
But
live
you're
here.
only allowed to leave if you
But you'll
do.
never leave. Like, I think already the like expectations are sowing dissent.
I had a question about, and I'm sure this was answered and I just missed it. But at one point, Game of Thrones bestie, whose name I should know that I don't know, is on the computer, bloop, bloop, bloop. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, nothing to see here. And she's like, I'm checking on our newest recruit. He's about at the place to take a face. What is happening?
I don't know, because he already has a face. He's been human form the whole time.
He came in with his, like, the face he came in with, but to become a warrior, he has to take one of the bodies of the people in the Zap machines. And they have them go through like a recruitment process to prove they're worthy of taking one of the faces from the Zap machines. So they have a file on him. But I have to say, if that's how you're navigating a computer, going from one directory to another doesn't happen that fast. So my question is, how the hell did she get from the samples to his profile?
Listen, she Windows 95, but excellent Wi-Fi.
Apparently.
Yeah, my question was, why does that recruiting structure sound like the same recruiting structure that LuLaRoe used? Like, it is giving
level
MLM. It really is. Speaking of the samples, though, I have a question for you all that nobody will be able to answer, but I do need to pose it. It said that the samples were collected on Terra C53 as an Earth.
Yeah.
What does that mean for the naming conventions of planets in the Marvel Universe?
Who fucking knows? Carol Danvers calls Earth C53. That's all I know. So presumably somewhere in the like Kree Skrull galaxy, they agree that Earth is C53. I don't think
my question was, does that imply that was the Kree naming convention?
Right.
And that has any association? Or does it mean that the cultures have intermingled enough that they agree that that's the naming convention of the planet Earth?
I don't know. We need like a galactic council or something.
What we need and what I want is a Disney Plus political drama show that just breaks down how the politics and languages in this universe is actually supposed to work.
That's
Yeah.
the other thing. Somebody find us a linguist who wants to break down that
Yes.
conlang, because I have
Please.
so many questions. If any of you know any nerdy, okay, all linguists are nerdy. I shouldn't have to put that disclaimer. If y'all know any linguists who want to break down the Skrullish language, I have so many questions.
So many questions. I want to know who built it. I just want to know who wrote that. What prefixes? What pieces did they take and smush together?
I also have questions, and maybe this is rude. I have questions about its consistency, because sometimes it feels like the intern of the week derogatory just wrote down some consonants and gave it to an actor, and they didn't actually like keep a list of what words were. Like, I don't think this is like an I can learn and have learned Klingon on Duolingo situation. Like, sometimes it just feels like we decided this is what this sentence means, but we lost the Rosetta Stone somewhere.
Oh, I found it.
Yeah.
Intern of the week
It
moment.
See, I want to believe that it's a fully developed language like Klingon or
You would like to believe that Marvel
Esperanto.
developed a language.
But they didn't. They absolutely did not.
If they can't develop a female character, I don't think they can develop a language.
No. I mean, there's a world in which they were like, just make it up. Figure out what that means to you, and then you say it.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah. It's like zip, zap, zop, but yeah, Skrull.
Yeah.
I love that. Marissa in her director era when.
You'd be a great director.
Thank you. I directed a really good play in high school.
Of course you did.
That
That tracks with the backstory I have created for you in my head.
Excellent.
Oh man, I love that for us. Okay, do we have any other thoughts that we want to put out into the universe before we jump into our notes or predictions?
I have two thoughts.
So many thoughts.
Yeah, I know. Just
meant that so genuinely.
Just boiling out of me. Number one, there is still no consensus on whether it's Talos or Talos. People are saying all of the above. Like,
I'm claiming Talos.
I keep reading it as Tarlos, so that's confusing for me personally.
I'm from the Midwest. I'm claiming Talos. Just far forward nasals you can get. I don't appreciate that. I really don't like this revisionist history. His name is now Talos. I'm not here for that. Number two, do we have any update on our view of Rhodey?
Yeah, actually. Listen, we can talk about there was two, conversations about the Black experience, especially the Black American experience. And we're not going to have the conversations on what that means, other than we get a vibe on who the people writing those conversations were. However, I was eating up Rhodey's performance in the bar. I was there for him.
It is a great scene written by two white men.
I was having so much fun with his performance, particularly I support Rhodey. I am now apparently a Colonel Rhodes stan. I do still judge him a little bit for Civil War, but his performance there was great. However, that scene and the show in general is making me dislike Fury a lot, and I didn't have that on my Secret Invasion bingo card. I've never like loved his life choices in previous projects, but I never like actively disliked him as a person. However, this episode in particular, something about it was just really giving jaded old man, crotchety, stuck in his ways. I know what's best, and I will never move forward or get more open-minded in my views. I don't think that's necessarily the vibe I want from my Nick Fury.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting because I think previously, I think we've talked before, Marvel has a tendency to do this thing where like there will be a line that I'm not sure that they thought would be impactful, but it will completely change my understanding of the universe as we know it. And so I think prior to these episodes, I thought of Fury as like this, like intelligent guy who was kind of like doing what, like the government wouldn't do, right? He was like working around the government to like do what needed to be done. And he just cared about Earth a lot. And I didn't really understand that, but like, he cared about humanity and he was going to do the best for humanity. And then it was revealed that like his midlife crisis was just building a superhero team of predominantly white men. And I think that like the person that does that is the person that has this conversation with Rhodes that way, but that was not the person that existed to me in the first
Exactly.
Avengers.
It really is. Everything they're doing with him here is changing our perspective on him in previous projects. And like I had this thought and I kind of felt bad about having this thought, but like I was halfway through the episode and I was like, why didn't they just fridge Fury for Maria Hill's character development? And like I feel bad because like I want more characters of color and I don't want to say, hey, like this is like one of the only characters of color we've ever seen in this entire 25-year franchise. But everything they're doing feels like it's detracting from his character for me, and I'd much rather him be used as a plot device to further the narrative of women and not take away everything we liked from him in the Captain Marvels, in the, taking advantage of his knowledge of the system to evade the system and do the right thing. Like, we're not getting that from him anymore.
I also feel like this show in general so far, and I'm hoping it changes, but in these first two episodes, has been a missed opportunity for spycraft, which is offensive to me personally. But we know that like Fury kind of has that background. And I think like when he's on the train at the beginning and they're like leaving Russia, I was like, okay, we're going to get some like spy stuff. Like he has stolen the hat from somebody on the platform. He's going to do something. Like he's going to do another outfit luggage switcheroo. We're going to end up here. Like, and none of that. Like he was just walking around the world as Fury. And I was like, what is happening? Like this whole thing could have been like a complex like spy plot where we really saw kind of your intelligence. And that it also feels to me, and this could be a hot take, but his character in this to me is very similar to Samuel L. Jackson's character in The Kingsman, which I previously distanced from Fury. So I think that is also, that is throwing me a little bit.
Looking back after you made that statement, I was like, for the most part, I saw his character on screen and I was like, that's Nick Fury. And in this show, I see him on screen and I'm like, that's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important distinction to make here.
I do think that's true. I think we're being told a lot the Fury's like old and tired and out of practice and blah blah blah. But like we're not seeing that, but we're not seeing anything in
either.
Right. We're not seeing spycraft. We're not seeing interest of really any sort. But we're also not seeing like hard worn, tired, out of the game man. We're just sort of seeing Samuel L. Jackson, which is great. But like, yeah. I am interested to know like what you guys' like perspective on Fury was previously, because to me, I wouldn't describe him as like the one to go against the odds or put humanity first. Like, I feel like my biggest like image of Fury is like in opposition to Steve, and like where Fury represents like authority and like playing by the rules. Steve is sort of what I feel like you were describing as Fury. So like, I don't know. In that way, I'm enjoying him now. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I think my reaction is to think of him, and I'm probably conflating with the comics as well, but there's a line in one of the films where he was like, well, since the council made a stupid ass decision, I've chosen to ignore it. Like, those are kind of the moments where I'm like, okay, there is like, we are supposed to believe that in someone's interest, Fury is going against like the orders that he is given.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, because you are a Winter Soldier girly, and I am a Captain Marvel girly asterisk.
I love him in Captain Marvel.
I know you. I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying my association with Fury is the man who like trained Coulson, and I have watched every single episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I have strong feelings about Phil Coulson, and I love him dearly. And so I think of Fury as the man who trained a Phil Coulson, and I think that is reflecting much more highly on Nick Fury of past than it should.
Yeah.
Well, and also a man who kind of went outside, I don't want to know that I want to say outside the lines, but made some choices for Phil Coulson that Phil Coulson doesn't necessarily celebrate, right? Which I think is also a piece of that discussion that may become relevant in this show later on.
Yeah.
Justice for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I guess.
Oh, Daisy, my beloved. Yeah. On that note, do we want to do some fun notes / rapid fire slangs that will not be rapid fire in any way whatsoever, because I know us?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how literally insane my notes were something else this week.
All right, I'll kick it off with Alexis's talking about the state of being an American in Russia and ending it with, and I had been invited to the country. They asked me to come. Like, just be quiet, bestie.
I was very well, and this was also a dumb moment for me, because I was like, I should have caught the reveal earlier. I should have realized that he was a Skrull, but I didn't, and I was very concerned for his safety. I was like, my guy, that is rule number 1. You don't do that. Brought back a lot of memories. I will say that.
One of my favorites from myself, because I'm very funny, is it's the 90s because he has a big tie.
That one did crack me up earlier.
I'm trying to find one here.
Yeah. All of mine are boring. Although I will say I did have the big brain moment where I started referring to Gia and graphic as G squared, and I was really proud of that one personally.
No, that's good.
I do love you're just obsessed with the picture wall, because I have no clue what that means, and I have never known you to be obsessed with a picture wall.
I'll tell you exactly what picture wall that is. When they walked in to the bar with Rhodey and Fury, the background was a picture wall with all of these like ornate gold frames and the most random ass like filler set dressing photos, but the entire back wall was these like super ornate gold frames like covering this entire wall and the most random ass filler.
When they walked into Fury's house, when Fury walked into his house, there's this like really pretty like blue abstract artwork, and I had this moment where I was like, wouldn't it be so cool if that was Skrull artwork? Like if that was like stuff like a Skrull language piece. And I don't think that's what they were going for. Like I think it was just supposed to be 70s, but I got really pumped up about it.
I also thought it was giving Skrull art, so like I'm with you there.
Marital Superbrain.
My notes are not very funny. Let's go to Alexis. Alexis has something to say. Oh, Alexis was really concerned about see, this is the thing about Alexis is she will read my notes and then watch the episode and then comment on my notes in her notes. She was really concerned about the fact that I said that it was the year I was born when 1997 came up on the screen because I was born in 1997, famously. But first it comes up as 1995.
Like, there's no way.
That's true.
I had a crisis about it. I was like, I am at least a decade older than Marissa because
I am
also not millennial.
Almost exactly 5 years apart. Famously.
My favorite note from Alexis is she is not even trying to pretend she's driving this car. I have no idea what car it was talking about because I too was reading other things while watching this episode.
There is a scene where Game of Thrones bestie is driving the car and she's having a conversation. At one point, I don't even think she has both hands on the wheel. Like it is the most this car is on a track I have ever seen. She's never looking at the road. Like, I mean, it may turn out later that Skrulls have some like surround sound vision that but like in that moment, she was not driving that car. Yeah.
I also like, I'm sorry, Skrullos is just a funny name.
Highlight to me, why does even when I'm out, I'm in sound like a pickup line a frat boy would use?
But does it not? Like, what did
You're
you
so real for that.
And he says it with such seriousness. I know immediately, like I looked at some episode recaps because I skipped. For our audience, I guess may not know. I fast forwarded through all the torture. So I read like a review to make sure there hadn't been like an important moment in the torture that I missed. And everyone was like, man, that line dropped by Fury. And I was like,
and then my final request within your notes is, can you read your last bullet point and then all of the points following it? Just recreate that for us personally.
Wow, we had the exact same reaction.
Yeah. He's married to a Skrull. I'm sorry, what? You're just going to drop that on me? Slay.
I said, oh shit. Slay.
I love to see it. That's so funny because I wrote question mark, question mark, question mark. We did not need that long a makeout scene. Thank you very much.
And that is what I read. And I went, the makeout scene wasn't long. And then it was like, oh.
I will have to say, I was emotionally devastated by Brogan. Like that hit me right in the feels. And I was not prepared for Secret Invasion to make me emotional. And I do hold that against them personally.
Yeah, I said, well, that was heartbreaking. I may actually vomit. That was my reaction to that.
I'm not okay with it.
I'm
So we're
not
just
either.
ignoring it and moving on.
Oh, here, I have some good things to say.
We
I
also
said,
insulted Croatia, which I'm just now remembering and didn't like. Sorry, continue, Marissa.
when Olivia Colman walks into the meat locker, she just I wrote, it's giving Mary Poppins, because it really was to me. It's just like sickeningly sweet slay. And then a little later in that scene, I wrote, this show said there will be blood and you will celebrate it.
Mm-hmm. He also said,
fast forwarded through it.
he also had lots of thoughts on there's so much content with throat punches lately, and I could not name a single one. So I would like you to name all of the content you can think of off the top of your head that have throat punches in it ever. Go.
It's just two. I had just seen No Hard Feelings like 2 days prior, and there's like a full sequence where Jennifer Lawrence is literally punched in the larynx, and it like affects her speech for several scenes. And so I was just like, wow, you don't see a larynx punch very often. And then it was there immediately after in Secret Invasion. And so I was just like, we're really using the throat punch recently.
There have been some truly creative fighting maneuvers used in this show. I mean, even by Marvel standards, we have gotten we're really doing some stuff. Choke punches or throat punches and complicated wrist breaks that defy the laws of physics. We're also in this episode as well, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I will say this episode did further me only appreciating capital M men when they're doing like semi-competent fighting sequences in Marvel properties. And the only person who looked semi-decent in this entire episode was Gravik for like half a second, and the rest of his fighting was not good. But there was like one
one good shot. And then he walked off real
shot.
Cool. Yeah.
And I appreciated that and nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. Right. I do wish Marvel would understand that I don't watch their thrillers for the action. I watch it for the thriller. So, like, give me some intensity. Give me some sneaking through a mall. I don't need 25 gunmen.
Give me another skeleton bestie and one competent gun pull.
I mean,
yeah.
Famously, the only good part.
Yeah. Now that you said it, I really wish there would have been a sequence of them like sneaking through the train, like going car.
Mm-hmm. Why? Okay, here's my.
Not the hat, changing jackets. Like, now I'm upset.
Why have media on a train in Russia,
literally,
if not for a spy maneuver?
I'm kind of disappointed that like all of the spy shit is just Skrulls shapeshifting.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely they tagged this episode as espionage, and I was like, where? There needs to be a rating scale of criteria that you have to include in your show before you could tell me it's spycraft.
Talos turned into a hot lady. That's spycraft.
I want her hair.
It was very cool hair.
Yeah,
there's a lot of like
Lily Vanderwoodson hair.
There's a lot of like mid-century hair referencing happening. That like one lady that Gravik was in the first episode with her, it was like giving 40s. There's a lot of
I will make this quick because we are but I have so many questions about you all last week covered this whole situation about like gluten and Skrull physiology. And it raised a lot of questions for me about how they are able to interpret the memories of the people whose identity they are taking on. Because to me, memories have cultural context. And there is
Mhm.
no way I believe that all of these people have studied the entire history of Earth, because they're not in America, they're in Russia. But they're
Mhm.
in Russia half the time pretending to be American. So they would need
Mhm.
like a double cultural understanding. So I don't know if their bodies are just process, like apply the cultural context to the memory for them.
I would assume that it's more of it okay. If this was good world building in a culture that is comprised of shapeshifters, there would be a cultural baseline of uh assumptions
Okay.
of how different people interact and a more fluid understanding of how to fit into situations you might not fully understand.
Okay.
That's if I was, part of the cultural development of these people. That's how I would rationalize these choices.
Because the hair
However,
choices, yeah, the hair, I don't trust Marvel to do what you're saying, because then I would really enjoy this property. So my question was, like, are these mid-century moments happening? Like, are they choosing people? Like, is there an intent in choosing to embody people from that decade for like cultural or availability reasons?
I don't know.
I
It
also
doesn't
have
make sense to me
questions.
because it feels like it's either an aesthetic choice by the production to be like Cold War, Cold War, Cold War, or it's like, or like, rise, like accusing, like McCarthyism, that kind of vibe, or it's like something weird with the Skrulls. Like it has to be intentional in some way because it is so obvious to me in the moments that it is there that I can't imagine it being just like, and she'll have like a 50s day updo. Like,
I'm uncomfortable with being attracted to the Cold War. So can we make it the other one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I just have so many questions on the implications of what it means for these scrolls to be embodying specifically like um black UK man as leader. And like how much do scrolls understand the socio-political climate that goes along with how people interact with them because of how they look? And that's way too much,
Mm.
huh? In Russia, yeah. And that's way too big of a brain thought to have currently. So I think we might table this discussion for a later day.
Yeah.
good call.
I
My
mean,
love.
there are so many things that I wish they would do or they could do or would be interesting conversations to have that I know they're not going to do. So,
That.
like, let's go to Delulu Land. Like,
All right, with that, let's go to our delusional predictions of the week. What do we think we will see in episode 3? I have thought of 0 things to say for the segment, so I'm going to toss it to Marissa first.
great. I hope we see like a rom-com montage of Fury and his wife's 30-year relationship.
Yeah, love that. Alexis, do you have any thoughts? Because I'm still blanking.
I didn't prepare for this. I think that we will see more 1970s decor that I enjoy, that it will not include an atrocious marble waterfall island, and that there will be at least like another gory torture something scene that makes me question where Marvel is going in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Marvel is trying to lay the foundations for when they eventually do blade. And that's my thoughts
So
on
valid
the
for that,
gore
honestly.
of this. My prediction for the next week is that there will be another like so absurd design choice that takes my entire like thought process for the entirety of the scene, because this week it was that round chandelier in the bar that I had to like actively stop
Mhm.
thinking about for that entire conversation, because I'm like, what the fuck is that chandelier? So I think we're gonna get another one of those moments, like some random ass design choice that is like all I can think about for an entire scene.
Mhm. I think there will be another slightly too long expositional multi-character conversation in which I don't really pay attention and don't gather the appropriate cliff notes. And then I come to this show and other people have paid more attention and recognize the things that are actually important to know.
Okay. I'm actually gonna build off of that prediction and say that there will be another unnecessarily long monologue that is trying to convey something that I don't understand exactly what they're trying to convey, and the editing specifically is going to make it so choppy and hard to follow that you don't quite
Mhm.
get what's making the scene awkward.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what I'm referring to, I just had so many questions about the editing choice in the train monologue.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. I don't. That was a scene that I watched and then I moved on.
I'm still stuck on that train. I have so many questions about the train.
Do you think we'll see more underutilizations of trains in the next one?
Yes, probably. Just because I think Marvel has it out for me personally. There are no cats. There's
Mhm.
underutilization of trains. There's alluded to spycraft that we never see occur. I also predict that in the future there will be another vaguely governmental group of people that I will think belongs to another vaguely governmental group of people that actually does not. Like we will meet more senators, and I'll be like, those are the senators from Iron Man 1, and Marissa will be like, those are Atlanteans. What are you talking about? Like, I think that is going to happen next week.
Mm-hmm. Oh, next week is episode 3. I predict the Owl Eye spy cam will come
Yep.
back.
Mm-hmm.
From episode 1 when Fury meets what's her name, Sonya Bestie, in the apartment. He puts a camera on the Owl Eye.
Yes, I'm remembering now. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
with you.
Yep.
All right.
I can't
Any last predictions?
halfway through this show.
Yeah.
I assume there will be something dramatic and important that happens next week because I feel like maybe we've established all of the exposition. Doesn't really feel like it, but we'll find
Oh.
out.
Question. Do we know what the stakes are?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. That was like a genuine, like I thought it
There's
was
a million Skrulls on Earth and they want to get rid of humans, maybe?
Yeah.
But only some of them seem to want to get rid of humans.
Theoretically,
Yeah, I think about
Gravik
10
wants
of
to
them
take
want to
over
get
the
rid of
world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know. We'll see. I want us to do a vibe check. How are we feeling about the series in general on a scale from slay, partial slay, kind of a slay, not a slay, or our alpines, or a combination of slays and
Mhm.
alpines, and
Mhm.
all of the scales.
I would say overall from an objective perspective, it's like a minute slay.
Mhm.
From my perspective as a silly little no-brain TV watcher, it's like a slay. Not a slay, but like a slay.
Okay. I'm giving it a partial slay plus an alpine. So like
Okay.
I have hopes, and I know that they're misplaced, but I am desperately clinging to those hopes.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
We're living in delusion. I love that.
Exactly. Alexis, where are you living in?
I think I am at 2 accessoryless Alpines at the train station, watching all their hopes and dreams go by on a train they can't get on. I think it is like between a partial slay and a slay to me, because I am not like, I have gripes with the show, but I do have questions. Like, it does make me like think about things and want to know more about certain things. And honestly, Fury's house is a slay enough to like pull it up a couple points for me. So I'm invested in that relationship now, so that'll get me through the rest of the show, hopefully. But yeah, so
Love
Great.
that. Incredible. Thank you all for joining us for this wild ride. It has been a blast talking about this episode of a show with y'all today. Of course, we are not joined by our fearless leader, Liz, who you can find all over the internet at Producer Liz, doing all of the things. And go wish her a happy Canada Day, regardless of when you are watching this. If you're watching this live today, great. If you are watching this a couple months from now, I also want you to at Producer Liz and wish her a happy Canada Day. Please do that for me personally.
Yeah.
Marissa?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at Miss Abopissa on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And this week, oh boy, I'm gonna talk a lot about Barbie. I'm gonna use up all 600 of my tweets a day on Twitter. I'm gonna have a great time. And there's a lot of new content coming in July that I'm super looking forward to. Plug for Joyride coming out July 7th. Go watch that movie, please. So that's me. Oh my God, also Speak Now, Taylor's version is this week.
Oh,
Stay
yeah.
a lot going on. Stay tuned. Turn on notifications at Miss Abopissa.
Alexis?
I am at Just Alexis Blake, and these days I'm scared of the internet, so I think you should turn on notifications for at Miss Abopissa and listen to everything she has to say.
I, of course, am Cyclone MC. I am also scared of the internet, so I also think you should turn on not only notifications for Miss Abopissa, but also notifications for After Party SHO on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Of course, do all the things like and subscribe, comment. If you are replaying, please drop us at least one little comment so we can see you and love you and appreciate you. You mean so much to us. And with that, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we will see you next week.